On September 27th, 2026, a new question arrives at the desk of every sustainability director in the European fashion industry. It's not, can we say this? It's, can we defend this? The question is produced by a piece of legislation called the Empowering Consumers for the Green Transition Directive, the ECGT. It bans what fashion has been saying for 15 years or more, and it arrived in around 160 days. This episode is for the sustainability directors, the CSOs, and the CEOs of fashion brands who are looking at that date and wondering what exactly they're supposed to do between now and then. The short answer is that the data you've been collecting is necessary. And it's not enough. Let me tell you why. The Empowering Consumers for the Green Transition Directive was adopted by the European Union in early 2024. Member states were required to transpose it into national law by March the 27th of this year. The directive becomes enforceable on September 27th. That gives every fashion brand selling into the European market roughly 5 months from today. Here is what the directive bans. Generic environmental claims like eco-friendly, conscious, responsible, sustainable, climate neutral, environmentally friendly. These are no longer permitted unless the brand can demonstrate recognized excellent environmental performance under the criteria that the directive specifies. The word sustainable on a tag, a label, a collection name, a landing page, a catalogue. If you cannot defend it, you cannot use it. Claims based on offsetting are banned. A brand cannot claim that a garment is climate neutral because emissions have been offset elsewhere. The claim must refer to the product itself, not to the balance sheet. Sustainability labels, the logos, seals, and certifications printed on tags and on websites, are also banned unless they rest on a third-party certification scheme or are established by public authorities. And there's more. The directive also addresses durability claims, repairability claims, and premature obsolescence. But the three I just named, generic environmental language, offsetting-based claims, and unverified labels, are likely the ones that will land hardest on the fashion industry, because they're the language that the fashion industry has been using. Now, this is no longer theoretical. The enforcement pattern is already established. In 2022, 4 years before the ECGT, the Dutch Consumer and Market Authority, the ACM, took action against two of the largest retailers in the European market. H&M was required to withdraw generic sustainability claims attached to its conscious line. The ACM's position was that the claims were too vague for consumers to evaluate. H&M made changes. It made a donation to sustainable causes. It moved on. Decathlon was required to withdraw the phrase eco-design and related terms from its products. Same reasoning, same outcome. Now the company was fined under the ECGT because the directive did not exist yet. They were held accountable under existing consumer protection law. The Unfair Commercial Practices Directive has been enforced since 2005. And here's what that means. The regulatory view that generic sustainability claims are misleading, that view is not new. It's been on the books for 20 years. But what the ECGT does is make it explicit, make it harmonized across the union, and make it enforceable in ways that cannot be negotiated on a case-by-case basis. The H&M and Decathlon settlements were the rehearsal. September 27th is the performance. And here is where most of the conversation in fashion sustainability right now stops. The industry response to the ECGT has been, understandably, more data, life cycle assessments, product environmental footprint calculations, digital product passports, supply chain verification systems. And the belief is, if we can substantiate the claim, we can defend the claim. And that is true if the substantiation is necessary. Under the directive, without it, the claim cannot be made at all. There's no path to ECGT compliance that skips the data work. But the data work is not sufficient. And here's why. The data work assumes that the beliefs governing procurement decisions, design briefs, supplier contracts, material selection, and even end-of-use planning, it assumes that those beliefs have already been examined, that the organization knows what it actually believes about the products it's putting into the world, and that the data that's being gathering reflects that belief. In most fashion brands, that examination has never happened. What has happened is this. A sustainability department was created, targets were set, reports were written, collections were labeled, awards were won. And throughout all of it, the operative beliefs that govern the core commercial decisions of what gets designed, what gets sourced, what gets priced, what gets discounted, and what gets discontinued, those beliefs did not change. And they did not change because they were never surfaced. And then we never surfaced because the sustainability function was asked to measure, not to examine. And this is the gap that ECGT will expose. When an enforcing authority asks a fashion brand to defend a claim, the data will need to tell a coherent story. And the story the data tells will be measured against what the organization actually does, not what it says. If the beliefs driving the actual decisions are different from the beliefs the sustainability report describes, and in many brands they are, the data will not hold, no matter how rigorous. The gap between what the sustainability report says and what the design brief actually prioritizes is a belief gap, and a belief gap cannot be closed with more measurement. It can only be closed by surfacing the belief. There are 160 days between today and the enforcement date. The fashion brands that will come through September 27th clean are not the brands with the most data. They're the brands that have done two things. One, they've gathered the substantiation the directive requires. That's the necessary work, and there is no shortcut for that. Two, they've examined the operative beliefs governing their product decisions so that the data tells a coherent story rather than a contradicted one. The second task is the one that is not on the compliance calendar. It's not what the auditors will ask for. It's not what the legal team will scope out. And it is the task that determines whether the data, when it's challenged, holds. That task has a name. It's called a belief gap map. It's the work that surfaces what the organization actually believes, revealed by the decisions it actually makes. It takes a matter of weeks, not months, and it's designed to be done before the pressure arrives, not after. If you're watching this and the September date has been moving around in the back of your mind for a while, the conversation to have is not whether your data is ready. It's about whether your decisions are coherent with what your data will say. The real question is, what does your organization actually believe when the sustainable option becomes inconvenient? Not what it says it believes, not what appears in the annual report, but what the decisions the company makes reveal. That question is the beginning of the work. I will see you next week.